Welcome to Confessions of a CEO, powered by RG. My name is Carl Swansbury, and I'm delighted today to welcome Geoff Ramm onto my podcast. For those of you who've not had the pleasure of meeting, speaking to, or indeed hearing Geoff Ramm speak before, Geoff is a Northeast born and bred businessman. His early career was spent in marketing and customer services before he decided to set up his own marketing agency, which in no time, very quickly, resulted in Geoff being an international speaker, commenting largely on celebrity service and how to deliver five-star service to each and every customer, whilst also being a best-selling author, mentor, and advisor to business. Geoff is someone who I, for many years, have respected from afar, having read 2 of Geoff's books. So I'm personally really looking forward not only to meeting Geoff today for the first time, but also finding out a little bit more about his highs, his lows, and some of the key things that he thinks you, our viewers, can introduce to your business to make sure you're delivering a celebrity service to your customers. I think today's podcast is going to be inspiring and thought-provoking, so I'm really looking forward to it. Geoff, first of all, can I just say I'm absolutely thrilled, truly, to have you on my Confessions of a CEO podcast today.
Oh, that's very kind of you. Thank you, Carl. Thank you. It's great to be here.
Lovely to have you, not only as a fellow Northerner, but actually genuinely as someone who I've always looked up to. I've read your work. Some of the things that you have spoken about on your TED Talks and podcast, I have tried, perhaps unsuccessfully, to implement into my businesses. So I'm truly excited to spend 45 minutes with you today on our podcast.
Can't wait. Let's go.
Awesome. So as a fellow Northerner, it would be fantastic just to understand a little bit more about, I guess, where you were born and bred for the benefit of our viewers.
Oh, my word. So born in South Shields.
Yeah.
So despite us being Mackhams and Sunderland fans,
Sand dancer.
I'm a sand dancer. And I explain this to people around the world. They say, oh, whereabouts are you from? And I go, oh, God. Because you don't want to say Newcastle.
Why not?
Because everybody says Newcastle, and I'm not from Newcastle. So I say I'm from a little place called South Shields.
Yes.
And then I have to go down the whole sort of, Sarah Milligan. Oh, yeah. So like, yeah. So South Shields, I was born and lived in Whitburn Village, throughout my sort of childhood, I suppose. Moved to Bolden with my wife, Hayley, and we now reside in Seaburn. So we've travelled in a good 4-mile triangle.
That's right. There's clearly an obsession with the coast.
If I see the sea, I'm at my happiest.
Really?
Oh. If I can see the sea and walk along and, anywhere where there's water, I think there's, there's a real sort of affection for it.
And in terms of your parents, what did they do professionally? Just so I can understand a bit more about, I guess, what it was like to be Geoff Ramm at home as a youngster.
That's an interesting one. So from a very early age, my father was unemployed. My mum was a housewife, as the titles were back in the day. It was busy household of
And you are one of how many siblings?
2. So there's myself and my sister Alex.
Okay. So tell me, obviously I know what your education looks like, and I know that you fundamentally ended up going to university. What inspired you to follow education, given, as you say, you came from perhaps a very working class, very honest?
What inspired me education-wise? Malcolm Stevenson.
Oh.
He was a stand-in sort of teacher. I went to Whitburn Comprehensive, and he was a stand-in teacher. I can't remember who was off, but he came in and he just had a way with words. You just make stuff lighthearted, bit of fun. Yes, you're learning, but so he took us for business studies, which was my favorite subject at school.
Okay, yeah.
So I love the element of creativity and creating something from scratch at business studies. And I love that sort of the marketing side back then. And he sort of tips me over the edge of thinking, oh, this is actually something that I quite enjoy. moving on from Whitburn Comprehensive, of course, I'm very well travelled by this stage in life. 4 miles north of Whitburn, you come to South Tyneside College.
Indeed.
And who was my lecturer for business studies? Malcolm Stevenson again. So I was there for about sort of 3 years or so, BTECs and all that type of wonderful stuff. And that was the sort of that early sort of seed of I quite like this subject area. From there, got on the same bus and went south to a place called Sunderland. And the business school had just opened, St. Peter's Business School. It was the year it just opened. We came in with a sort of first year at the university. And that's where I got my degree in business and marketing.
Awesome. And we'll come back to talk a little bit about why you decided to major on the marketing element of your degree professionally when you moved into employment. But just one last question around, I guess, what inspired you or what provided you with the motivation to go to university? Because, I guess the Northeast isn't necessarily a place whereby everyone assumes university is the right next step post A-levels. So was it your parents who were saying, come on, Geoff, you've got to go to university? Or was it you saying, I want to be the best version of me? I'm just really keen to understand why university for you, because there'd have been so many vocational options, I suspect.
I think it's in order to get there, that end, whatever that may be,
Yes.
there's certain steps that are going to help you get to that end. If you don't take those steps, then that's going to be further away. So in terms of, I knew that I don't think anybody in my family been to university before myself.
I was first.
So I've been in the first, so college, and it's very hard getting anything marketing-wise, work-wise in the Northeast. It's nigh on impossible. And if you had to, you'd almost have to move away in Manchester, London, that type of thing. And I didn't really want to move away. But from an education point of view, I thought, well, I'm going to have to get some education. I have to get it, as many qualifications as I can to stand me in greater stead come the world of work, I suppose. So that was my inspiration of sort of where do I want to go, and if I was going to be very materialistic, which I don't mind sharing with you now, it was interesting because I was listening to Peter Kirk, my good friend.
Yes,
a wonderful podcast that you did. He's talked about how that goal of the Porsche 911. Well, we had the same flipping goal, and I've still got it on my shelf in my office.
Have you?
I've still got the brown. It was brown. Don't ask me why, but it was a brown 911 Corgi Matchbox thing. So I've still got it from being a kid. So I think from the age of 6, and of course at the time, if you think of back in the early 80s, it was all Lamborghini, Ferrari, that type of big poster, red, and the Porsche just I don't know, I just attracted. I just loved it. I loved everything about it. I know nothing about cars, by the way.
But you like
the whole
the look
and feel. I thought this is the dream. How do I get there? So I started saving and I could see the money box now. But I used to start saving 5 pences, the new 5 pences that came out. That's money, by the way. If anybody's watching, this is called money. It's not on a card. It's just to put 5 pences in the money box. I might have got to about £1.35, and I thought, God, this is going to take a long time.
That's right. Lots of money boxes required
to get this car. But I suppose from a very early age, I'm looking at that's the end goal of that car. How do I get there? How can I get there?
So university, you work the right step toward.
Yeah. And that is going to give me a greater chance of achieving what I would like to do.
And obviously you've talked about, this Porsche, which was the car you wanted to wrap your arms around. Did you have then like a mood board? Did you have a number of things that
you didn't exist
seeing as success?
It didn't exist 20 years ago, mood boards.
Other than this little car that you thought, I want.
It's always in my head. It's in my head.
Okay.
That would be the ultimate of tick boxes.
Yeah, okay. Got it.
That's it. Nothing else. There was nothing else. There's no home by the, by a lake and it's.
You were going to say home by a sea, but of course that's I've already got it. That's right. We're going to come back to the idea of being able to visualize and in fact live as if you've achieved before you have, sort of law of attraction.
Okay.
I'd love to get your view on that. But so obviously went to university, and as you say, business and marketing degree.
Yes.
And of course, it's marketing whereby you seem to have a huge passion and interest. Could we just talk about how you got your first ever job outside of academia?
Oh, do you want the first one? First one, or the best one? Jeez.
The first
Okay.
one.
Oh my.
So no, that's not the
You're
best.
not going to like this.
I know.
You're not going to like this. So, yeah. So. Oh, you might. We'll come back to this if you want, but there's a graduation story I'll tell you about if you want to know it, if you got time, because this is going to go past 45 minutes. First job after university. So you've got university, you've got your scroll, you've got, ta-da! I've got all this creativity, this imagination. I can't wait. I'm really enthusiastic. I'm passionate. Da, 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 da. And of course, what do you do? I signed up with every work agency, sort of employment agency that there was in Newcastle and then all the rest of it. My first, you couldn't get a marketing job for love nor money. It just didn't exist. Did not exist. Or they were shoehorning the word marketing into sales.
Right, okay. So a sales role, but a bit of marketing.
If I wanted to knock on doors, I wouldn't have spent the last 3.5 years at university. Right, but they call it marketing. It was
Okay.
It was badly disguised.
Yeah.
So my very first role, paid role, post-university, was in a call centre for Northern Electric. Can you remember the Northern Electric?
I can.
Carlisle House,
Indeed.
literally 2 minutes from where we're sat now.
Right.
And it's terrific.
And what was horrific about it?
Is this it?
So you felt
This-
like
I know
2.5 years working super hard to do that.
You kind of, I could have just done this from school. Could have just done this. It was, look, it's a horrific. It's a terrible word, horrific. There's bigger problems in the world, but in terms of all this time studying, all this time getting to the point of, and it's like, what's there? Nothing, next to nothing.
Yeah.
But you have to do it. There's bills to be paid and there's stuff to be done. So you do it. I can't remember how long I was there for. Maybe it's about a year. And when I say horrific, what I'm really saying here is the way that customers were treated, the way that you. I'll never forget it. There was a little old lady. It was when the dual fuel thing came out. God, you really tested my memory here.
Luckily, I've got a good research team, so far we're on point.
Yeah, when the gas and the electric market deregulated, what you had is a load of people from all companies going around signing people up, saying you're going to get cut off. Sign up here. We'll don't worry. And people were just duped. We were the darlings of Watchdog for years. So you had people calling up, saying, I'm being cut off, and I'm with you. Who are you? I had a little old lady, I think she was from Liverpool.
Wow.
And she was 80-odd, 82 or whatever. She was crying down the phone. I'm going, you're not going to get a call. She said, I don't want to be with you. I said, no, I appreciate that, but you've obviously signed something at the door. Somebody's knocked on your door, and it was horrible. And she was in a real state. And I said, look, I'm going to find out what's happened and I'll call you back. She said, will it be this week? I said, it'll be within the hour. She went, really? I went, yeah, because that's the perceptions of, service is It'll be a week. And I went, no, it'll be an hour. Do you promise? I went, yeah. I said, to tell you what, if I don't phone you in an hour, that's my number. Call me.
Sure.
And she went, oh, okay. My name's Geoff. He comes straight to me. She was coming over. So there's no way she was going to stay with a previous supplier. And so I phoned her back after about 30 minutes and I said, hi, it's da-da-da-da-da. And she'd calmed right down.
Good.
And I said, I do apologize. You are going to end up coming to us, but in a month's time, you can cancel.
No.
And then she says, no, I'll stay. I said, what? And I'm like, no, you've got to cancel. This is shocking.
Cancel.
I said, no. She said, no, I'll stay. She says, you've said this, you did this, you come back to me. And she said, I'll stay with you now because you've been great. I went, okay. So I was on a bit of a high. Following day, I was called into my manager's office and I'd been given a warning because I shouldn't have given out my number.
Right, well, you're not allowed inbound calls. Okay.
And that just finished me off. So that was my first role post-university. That taught me a lot about how to not deal with customers.
Yes.
valid lessons and all the rest of it. But it was just about doing the right thing, just being nice.
Yeah.
God, and it's we speak about it a lot, don't we? Processes, red tape, they kill
That's right.
service experience. They always have, they always will. So by cutting that, I helped a customer. We made profit on that customer. It was the wrong thing to do, apparently.
Okay.
And that killed me. That was the horrific side.
I can see why it would, but as you say, what a great learning early on in your career, because actually you probably had a really good insight into what is not good customer service, which is probably a good place to start when you're trying to develop an appreciation as to what delivering a celebrity service to a customer base looks like, which we'll come on to a little later. So obviously after 11 months in your first employed role, it seems there was just a complete lack of fit in terms of what they wanted you to do and what you were willing to do. So what came next?
What came next? I saw an advert, it might be in the Chronicle or the Journal, one of the three, and it was for a marketing advisor. And I was like, oh, it's got the word marketing. And it was at a place called the CDC Enterprise Agency.
Okay.
They had two offices, one in Chesley Street, one in Durham City. Marketing advisor thought, oh God, this sounds perfect. And it was about working with small businesses, startup businesses, advising marketing and all the rest of it. So I went for the interview and I got the job. Worked, my boss was Sue Irving, now Sue Parkinson, wonderful lady. There was Linda, there was a wonderful team that I worked there. And I was there for about 3.5 years and I just loved it. So my diary was full. Now this is the bonkers thing, right? I've never been in business and here I am as a marketing advisor to businesses. And I just find that bonkers. But I was taking all my experience and knowledge and all the ideas that I had. And of course, I would sit down with a startup business to advise them on their marketing. And the first and only question they used to ask is, how do I get customers? And by the way, I've got no money.
Sure.
And I easily, through 90% of my degree, threw it away, parked it.
That's right, put it to one side.
It's a better way of saying, isn't it?
I
think parked it. But actually just threw 90% of it away because it had no relevant, I'm talking about marketing strategy and positioning. And I'm like, oh my God, the person I'm stood in front of right now needs a customer. They need a customer to put food on the plate to get this business going. So my role was very much, okay, how do we get customers with no budget, with no money? And I'm talking at a time here, Carl, this will scare some of the listeners. There's no websites. There's no TikTok for God. There's no social media. There's no. I'm talking
advertising, isn't it?
I'm talking Netscape. I'm talking it takes you.
Yeah.
There's nothing. See, you've got back of a bus, cinema, yellow pages, flyers. That's it. That's it. So how do we stand out in the marketplace as a startup business with no money? How do we do it? And that's the bit that I loved, because that is the thing that I loved at university, at college, was that creative aspect.
Yeah, well, you have to be resourceful. You have to be creative when you don't have an open-ended budget, right, is the point.
Absolutely. So it's wordplay, it's creating flyers, it's creating materials, it's creating a story, a compelling story to sell, to influence the TV, the radio, the media, to pick up. After I left there, we must have had maybe about 20 TV appearances that I got for small businesses.
Awesome.
TV, I'm talking 5 sort of news slots in a day.
Wow.
That just gave that business confidence. All of a sudden, they got a full double-page feature in the Northern Echo, and it's worth thousands. We couldn't have paid. All of a sudden, we create a flyer or something that goes through somebody's door, and the national average response rate is 0.5%. I was getting 8-9%. And it was thinking differently, thinking creatively, helping, supporting businesses. Like I say, I was there for 3.5 years. Loved every minute.
You can tell, by the way.
Yeah.
And did you know during that 3.5-year journey that at some point there was going to be this massive itch to scratch when it came to setting up your own marketing agency, which of course is what you went on to do?
I suppose it's no, it wasn't in it just such, but it was like, this is a possibility.
Right. Okay.
This is something that could be done at some point. Because I'm seeing everybody come to me and they're enthusiastic, they're passionate. I know how hard it is, and I'm thinking, yeah, maybe it's one day, but I never thought about it. I just thought I'm on this career track. I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and it's so after 3.5 years, I left the enterprise agency. Look, I couldn't go any further in the organization. It was there was a dozen of us. It wasn't a case of going up to a higher level.
Oh, yeah, you'd hit the ceiling.
And there was a ceiling of financial ceiling as well. So 3.5 years, I saw another role in the press for marketing manager, responsible for marketing, promotion, customer service of a motor retail group in the Northeast. I went for the interview, had 2 interviews. Of course, I just opened I've still got them. I opened my black, those big leather.
Your folio case.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Oh, proper sexy.
Look at that.
So one of them was all full of the promotional marketing stuff I was doing for businesses. All of the stuff I've done for the last 3.5 years. Bang, bang, bang.
Like your portfolio. Okay.
And the other portfolio was all of the press coverage. And they just couldn't believe it. They went, "You've done all this?" I went, yeah. I stood on that building and took that photograph. I did this. And they were like, so I got the job.
Awesome.
So I was then manager.
Oh.
There's 5 of us in the team. And we did some amazing stuff. And I brought that creativity to my role that I had in the previous 3 years. So I've went from 3.5 years of working with businesses with no budgets to all of a sudden working with Toyota, Honda, Fiat, Citroen, Chrysler, who've got money to spend. And there's also budgets there. And I'm looking and going, you're wasting so much money. What we're doing. So I was there at Springfield Motor Group, and I loved it, by the way. I loved this role. We did some amazing stuff. The team were lovely, fantastic, still very good friends to this day. I was there when the number plate changed. Remember when the number plate changed?
I don't know what year that was.
Are we on 74 at the minute? It's 71.
It went beyond that.
So we started on 51 when the number plate changed. It was 51.
Right, okay.
So, and it still happens to this day, and it still bugs me, and I still go, for God, you're pathetic. I still go past all these dealerships all over the country, and to launch the new plate, they've got like new, and then the number.
Right.
Now.
Oh. Try it.
Jesus.
What is it just going to do?
So anyhow. So I came up with this idea. What can we do? This is the new plate. It's the biggest plate change in modern history. Nobody knew what it meant, but we knew what it meant. As I did radio interviews and I was doing all sorts of things. But the main thing we did in the dealerships, and this was across 11 dealerships, I created an Area 51. This is an area where you can get your U51, of course, Area 51. What was the show? What was the alien show in America, the big one? X-Files, that's it.
Oh,
X-Files was massive at the time.
Indeed.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So the Area 51 thing was massive on the TV. So we created Area 51. So every dealership. The radio ads were very sort of similar X-Files tunes, and it was very eerie, and the sort of press and all the rest of it. We hit the media. Anyhow, what you had was, it was a huge success. You had other major motor brands in the Northeast going, why didn't we think of anything like that? So we created this campaign. We were selling car. Everybody wanted the new plate. Everybody said, great, there's my old car. Exchange, bang, 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 bang. And everybody had the plate. Boom time in the industry. Massive sales. But what did you have back in your dealership? You had a boatload of old cars.
Old cars, indeed.
What the hell do we do with these? So let's just go forward to a marketing meeting that I was in. I'll never forget it, right? I don't mind sharing it. It was a table like this, actually. It was a lovely table like this where we're sat. And of course, I'm still wet behind the ears. I'm still new to this role. And chief exec and all of the dealer principals. There's about a dozen people around the table. And the plan had gone out. This is the marketing plan for the next, 3 or 4 months. I'm trying to remember it. It was October. It was like the usual sort of stuff. November, but December, there was nothing. It was like no plan, no schedule. January, there was all sorts of things in it, but December was empty. And the first time I'd seen this piece of paper, I was like, and of course, they're going around any other business. I went, I'm not shy. I just went, yeah. I said, go on, Geoff, what do you want to say? I said, why is December empty? And I heard somebody's voice, and like muffled voice, and I didn't find out who it was. And they went, oh, bless. I went, bless. And I said, why is it empty? They said, oh. And I was like, you don't sell cars in December. I went, right. Now I know the answer that they were going to tell me.
Of course.
But I still had to say,
I mean, it's the right answer.
So why is that?
That's right.
So tell me, Carl, why is that? Well, you see, it's a short month. Everybody's in party mode. It's a very expensive month. Gifts, presents, It's very expensive. Nobody buys cars in December. So I couldn't hold my tongue, and I just said, so if you do nothing to sell cars in December, and you sell cars, and you don't sell cars in December, then you're always going to be right.
That's right.
And you could hear people go, oh, shit. What? And they said, so what's your idea? Because they knew I had something. And I said, I want to create a used car event, but I don't want to do media. I don't want to do TV. I don't want to do radio. We don't have to do press. I want to do the mailing list. 30,000, whatever it was at the time. And I said, I'm going to create a Christmas offer, but it's going to look like a Christmas wrapping gift.
Yeah.
It's going to be cellophane rather than an envelope.
Got it. Yeah.
And I was saying, right, now I want to get the best deal. Anyhow, created this thing, looked gorgeous. And I contacted Macro.
Yeah.
Because I had this idea, right? And I love lumpy mail. In America, they call it lumpy mail. But I've always done this throughout my career. And I contacted Macro. And I said, do you sell mistletoe? They're like, yeah. I said, plastic mistletoe? They're like, yeah. I said, how much do you need? I went, 28,000 sprigs of mistletoe. And the marketing manager rang me. She said, what have you got in mind? I went, I'm not telling you. And I said, but can we pick it? Anyhow, I had 28. You could imagine the size. It would fill this room. My God. So me and the team took all these sprigs off, and we stuck them into this mailing so you could feel there was something inside. Anyhow, we did this. It went out to all of the homes, and inside it was all about kiss goodbye to your old car this Christmas.
Oh, okay, yeah, like that. Yeah.
Bit of cheese, but bit of fun. But if you bring this sprig of mistletoe in, you get put into a prize draw to win XYZ. So we could gauge how successful it was. I said, as well as this, and this was at the board meeting, I said, I would love to, I want to put 2 cars outside of Marks and Spencer's at the Metro Centre. When? In December. But you don't sell cars. And I said, that's what I want to do. It's about £2,000. It was a bit of outlay. And I said, but I don't want salespeople on there. I want my customer service person, Joy. She'll be on there just chatting to people. Because not everybody wants to go into Marks and Spencer's a week before Christmas.
That's right. Yeah.
But a lot of people will stand outside. Long story short, we created and we sold a ton of cars. 2 people bought 2 Honda Accords worth about over £40,000 on Christmas Eve morning.
Wow.
From that thing at the Metro Centre. So
awesome. It
was wonderful. We created some amazing things. I've got a list. I've got another portfolio full of the things we did at Springfield. And on the last day of February 2002, i.e. 23 years ago, last Friday, the finance director walked in with a white envelope and he said, you've been made redundant. He says, it's not just you, it's your whole team. This was at 8 o'clock in the morning. This is a family show, it's a family podcast. I'm not going to repeat the exact words I said, and I still haven't repeated.
Did it come as a total surprise for the ones?
Oh God.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Wow.
And so I said, you better leave now, because you aren't telling my team that news in that way. I'll do it myself. Still, one of the hardest things I've ever had to do is this team started coming in about sort of 8:30, 20 to 9. I brought them into my office. I said, close the door. I said, this is what's just happened. And it was a horrible feeling. And I lost my job. We all did. I lost my job. I lost my car. I lost my phone. Lost a chunk of confidence. Especially when all the great things that we did. And you think, well, how do you get rid of a marketing function that's so successful? It was all given to the advertising agency.
So outsourced. Okay.
Outsourced to the son of the MD.
Okay.
Beautifully done. That was Friday, the last Friday of February 2002. Got home to Haley. We were just devastated. And I said, I can't work for anybody else again in my life. The trust is gone. The respect is gone. Nobody in the future is going to come in with a white envelope and do that to me ever again. So Mercury Marketing was born on the 1st of March.
And what did your wife Haley say when you said to her that me being made redundant is going to spur me on to setting up my own business? Because of course you were presumably the sort of breadwinner, presumably the house was dependent on income. So how did she respond to this?
I think at the time, Haley was the main breadwinner back at the time, yes. No, she was just like, go for it.
Oh, really? Go for it. Knew it was the right thing for you.
Yeah, just go for it. Let's make it happen. Obviously, we've now just got one. Thankfully, we didn't have children at this stage, because that would have been doubly difficult,
isn't it?
But Haley took a second job on, so she was doing a lot of work down in Leeds. So Haley's in human resource professional, so she would work 5 days near the Team Valley, and then she would do sort of consultancy work on a weekend. So she was working to make up whilst I was trying to get a bit of traction, a bit of stuff to get my business going. I remember every detail of that. It's really bizarre, isn't it? And I can see it all.
In the sort of 6 months prior to you being made redundant, had you started to think about, your own business? Had you started to think about, moving into a agency environment where you've got many clients versus one dealership group? Or truth be known, actually, were you just loving the job?
I was because I was loving it. We're doing some great stuff. I could see the progression in that organization to go to marketing director, or you could see a bigger, better car.
Okay.
You could potentially see it. But no, that was me gone. I was only there about 11 months, 4.5 weeks. It was literally, I didn't even have 12 months service.
And how old were you then? Just to give a bit of context to the viewers.
I think I was about 26.
So 26, you and him
27.
Your way,
Yeah.
thinking about a family in time. And of course, as you say, the rug was pulled without notice, really,
Yeah.
professionally. Okay, so obviously, from adversity comes opportunity. So I guess, you'll probably have sat at home, a few tears, probably feeling a bit anxious, not really knowing what comes next. But as you say, the result of that was you were encouraged to set up your own marketing agency. And given you've just celebrated a big milestone birthday, could you just tell us a bit about how that business evolved from being, on day one, a marketing agency to now becoming actually predominantly a customer experience / customer services consultancy business, because the two are linked but different?
Yes. So the early days of Mercury, is that what you would like?
Yeah.
God. Okay. Cards on table. It took 6 months to make a penny.
Did it?
6.
Was that a surprise to you?
Yes.
How did it take that long?
I suppose, my diary was full at the enterprise agency because people were getting all of this advice, guidance, European funded money.
Free of charge.
And free of charge.
Right.
Oh, we'll have an hour of that time.
That's right.
And he said, well, I want you to chat. What's this? So that was different. And of course, I'm starting from scratch. I'm starting from no clients, no network, no nothing at all. So So on the Monday, I contacted Barclays. So back, needed to set up a business bank account, needed to start a business. Went to see Carol Emerson at the time, sat over the tables. That's when we had bank managers with names.
Proper banking.
No, not call centers like we do have now. So anyhow, Carol, and Carol, I remember she fanned the papers out in front of me. She said, "Oh, how can I help?" Like a Jedi thing. No. And I said, "I don't want any of that," because I could see it was like loans and overdrafts and stuff. I said, "I don't need any of that." She says, "Well, how can we help?" And I said, "I want your logo." She said, "What?" I said, "I want your logo." I said, "This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to advise, but I also do a little bit of speaking, a tiny little bit of speaking, sort of seminars and things like that. Let's create an event." And I said, "You would love switches. You would love to create a business event." I said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, I'll speak for free. I'll market it all for you." Because Barclays are a machine, but it takes time. I said, "I'll do all the PR. We'll get some press coverage." And I said, "If you could hire the room and get some biscuits, some tea, that would be great, because I don't have any money." She says, "Why did you want the logo?" I says, "I want credibility."
That's right. It's the sort of perceived association, isn't it?
So all of a sudden, somebody receiving a flyer or an invite to a Barclays event featuring Geoff Ramm, he mustn't be that bad.
That's right.
He must be all right. So that was the reason why, credibility. So we did this event. It was in South Shields at the number 10 restaurant. Barclays were co-sponsors because they also brought in Tedco.
Oh, okay, yes.
Business support, in South Tyneside. And Carol White, who I'd never known, I met her at this event. So we promoted it. The three of us promoted it. We must have had 200 businesses in that room. It was the night of Niall Quinn's testimonial.
Okay, yeah. That brings a bit of context in terms of when it was.
So I wasn't there, which is anyhow. And I got a phone call the next morning, like 20 to 9, quarter to 9, from Bill Thompson, local accountant in South Shields in Westall. "Hi, Geoff. I saw you last night. Can you come and market me?" And that was it. He must have recommended it. So I worked with Bill for many, many years.
Was that your first client?
First paid official client, Bill Thompson.
Awesome.
And he must have recommended me 20, 30 clients
All
of
of
his.
clients, that's right.
Got this guy, he'll help you with it. So that was the start. Carol White at Tedco said, "Can you come and we've got the startup program." People look, so it's similar to the CDC days. Would you, and it'll be paid, would you? So I created it, wrote it, delivered it, and then started working with the universities on their startup programs, Chambers of Commerce. And that was the start. That was the start of easily 4, maybe 5 years of building Mercury Marketing as a marketing advisor to small, micro, medium businesses, startups, marketing, but also customer service. Those were my two passions. Those were my two subjects. And that was the very first client. But you have to make it happen. You have to knock on the door and say, "Can I have your logo, please?"
That's right.
Nobody's going to just knock on your door.
Yeah, and as you know now, but probably didn't when you were part of Springfield, actually, when it's your business, not only do you have to be thinking about all things all of the time, because no one else is thinking about your business more than you should be, but actually you end up having to be all things to all people, don't you? Because you're winning business, you have to deliver marketing services, you're having to raise your invoices, you're doing a bit of credit control, and you're also going to macro to buy, sprigs of holly, etc. For occasional client marketing activities. Point being, until you've set up a business, you'll never know what having a business is like. The only way you learn is by doing, presumably.
Yeah, very true.
So obviously, given we're limited with time today, Geoff,
Part 2 coming soon.
I think they'll need to be. But if we can just sort of move into the sort of more recent years with Mercury, because of course, in the early years, it was a marketing agency.
Yes.
With a little bit of customer services.
Yes.
Can we now talk about the business today? Because it's clearly the other way around.
Mercury doesn't exist. It exists as a bank account. That's to be honest with you, Carl. It's still there. I can't get rid of the name Mercury Marketing. It's still my look, but I got rid of the domain name. I let that go many years ago. I just very quickly, after about sort of 4 or 5 years, I was knackered. I was wiped out because I said no to nothing, yes to everything. And I sat around the kitchen table and Haley said, you can't keep going on like this, because I wasn't employing anybody. I didn't want to employ anybody. Business was me. But I was writing the press release, taking the photograph, sending it, designing that, creating that, printing that, did everything. But I don't know when the next can you is ever going to come from. So I say yes to everything. Many people have been down this road. And Haley said, what do you want to do for the rest of your career? What do you want? Because you can't keep doing this. And I said, in an ideal world, I would love to do more speaking, because it was still 2% of my business at the time. I would love to go further afield, not just Tyne and Wear, Teesside and Carlisle. But I don't know if it's possible. So long story short, that happened over the Christmas time and I was just wiped out. Come the 1st of January, I split the Mercury brand and I bought the geofframm.com domain name, which I didn't want to do. A very egotistical thing to do. And I split the brand. So Mercury was still there. But geofframm.com, this is the speaker. And I'm going to speak on marketing. And I'll also speak on customer service. That's what, just traveling, getting to see different places, different audiences, sharing ideas, stories, being on stage. It's the biggest buzz beyond.
And just to talk about that, because for many viewers, myself included,
yes,
actually probably immediately feels quite anxious, quite nervous, quite sort of uncomfortable with the concept of actually standing in front of hundreds of people, all of whom have expectations and all eyes are on you. So at a relatively young age, why did you decide that actually what you wanted to do was to put to one side the marketing agency and on a daily basis put yourself in that quite uncomfortable position for someone who doesn't have perhaps the same level of experience or confidence you have? What was it?
I didn't find it uncomfortable.
Okay, so you're just very comfortable public speaking.
I wouldn't say comfortable public speaking, but I've stood up and I've delivered. And I always remember Sue, my very first manager at the enterprise agency, and I remember contacting her after I was made redundant and saying, I'm going to start up my own business. And she turned to me and she said, well, if you don't do it now, you never will. And I'll never forget that. And she was absolutely right. But she also said in those early days, she said, she says, you know more than that audience. I know I'm not delivering other people's stuff. I'm not delivering graphs and charts. I'm going to deliver my thoughts, my ideas,
your station.
And nobody knows where I'm going to go next, but I'm here to help support you. And I'm a storyteller. I tell stories and it's developed over the years. Like you'll never know what. It's quite incredible. But that, I've always had that confidence. I suppose back in the early days, a lot of people, I want to be a footballer. I would love to be a footballer. I would love to be a rock star, pop star. I'm rubbish. But I've always loved, and if I could have chosen the ultimate, wand, this is going to be I would love to be a comedian.
Really? Yeah.
I can't tell a joke to save my life.
Well, there you are.
I remember any, but I love telling stories that can have that quirky, fun, humorous element to it. So Billy Connolly, Dave Allen, these people that I've watched and listened to from a very young age, wouldn't it be amazing to get that sort of reaction? And
have you ever had sort of any professional training when it comes to public speaking, or is this all just self-taught based on experience?
Self-taught. And it's developed over the years. As you imagine developing the storytelling, the photographs, the images, the props. I used to use a lot of props because I didn't have PowerPoint back in the day. So it was very much me and the audience, and I was using props to show people, which was great. As the audience got bigger, you can't use the props. They've got to be able to see you.
Yeah.
So moving the technology and the PowerPoints and the slides, I was taking photographs of things and showing people, but it was all 100% original, my content. And audiences love content. They love to enjoy and have fun, but they want somebody with energy. And that's the one, I say this to new speakers now, that's the one thing that will get you booked and rebooked time and time again, your energy. People want to be lifted. When you go into a room and you're lifted, just bang, and I'll go for it. And people say, oh my God, I wasn't expecting that. I said, and I've used the line many times, I treat every event, every conference, every keynote that I do as if it's my last. Because one day it's going to be.
That's right. One day you will be right.
So I'm going to give it everything I've got.
I respect that.
So that bridge from Mercury into geofframm.com, I joined the Professional Speaking Association. I thought I needed to find out. I'm wet behind the ears here. I need to find out what the innings, the goings on, the workings of a speaking business. And that was wonderful. I was there for many, many years at the association. I still recommend it highly to this day. And you got time for the biggest story ever?
Shoot.
So when I joined the Professional Speaking Association, they have regions: Northeast, Yorkshire, London, Birmingham, Scotland, Manchester. You don't get paid, but you go there, and you can go there and support other speakers, and as a speaker or as the audience. And I contacted all of the regional presidents, and I said, look, I'm new to this. This is what I speak on: marketing. There's not many of us speak on marketing and service. Would you like me to? Oh, yeah. And then, so I would go to these different places. A year later, it's a Friday afternoon in June, 3:10, and I had a phone that had the window, the window, and it comes up with a number. Oh, yeah, it didn't come up with a number, it just said international out of area. And I looked at it, and I've worked in a call center before. I know this is a call center, and I've either won a fridge, I've won a kitchen, a car, a telephone, whatever it is, I've won something. And I thought, stuff you, I'm not going to answer it. And it kept ringing. I think it was about 9 rings I had it, and then it goes into answer machine message. And it got to about the 8th ring. I went, just pick up the phone. Just be nice. I've done that role.
That's right.
Many years ago. Just say, thanks for the offer of a kitchen. No, I don't know anybody else in my family that wants a kitchen, but appreciate it.
That's right.
Have a good weekend. And I picked it up, and there was an international clicking little thing. Here we go. Geoff Ramm speaking. That's Geoff Ramm. Yeah. I said, who's this? He said, my name is Seppa Tarvadi, and I'm from a company called Hamayash Faradan. I said, yes. He said, what are you doing on the 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th of November? Oh, I can tell you this, Carl. I looked at my diary. I can tell you this, as a speaker, nothing's in the diary. I'd only been going a year, right? There was nothing in the diary. But I pretended to flick through it. I said, I've got 2 potential events that week. I said, why? He said, I'm looking, you've been recommended. I said, for what? He said, a conference. I've got 2 conferences. I said, where? He said, Tehran.
You're thinking, that's definitely not next to South Shields.
And I was like, Tehran, Iran, Tehran.
That even rhymed.
And he went, yeah. And it's at this point, this exact point, that I knew what this was. I just got the domain name, geofframm.com, emailed jeff@geofframm.com, and I knew who it was. My best mate, we were best men at each other's weddings, best mate to this day, Martin Robertson, who I went to university with. And he's thought, let's have some fun. And he's contacted Metro Radio.
Oh, God.
Tony Horn in the morning type of thing back in the day. He was phoning me because you got Ram, Tehran, Iran. This is a wind up. So now I'm going live across the bloody airwaves. I've got to be the most professional I've ever been. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go along with this and pretend this happens every day.
Absolutely.
Because it doesn't.
You are a man in demand.
So I said, right. I said, and what event is it? He said, it's the world's first marketing and advertising conference. I said, fantastic. Okay. And I said, what's the audience? He says, there's 1,000. I'd never spoke to anybody past 100 people. 1,000 people in the audience. I said, okay. And I'm like, this is a wind up. And I said, what sort of businesses? He said, there's Bank of Iran, Iran Air. But we've also got a lot of SMEs. I was like, there's no way Tony Horn knows about SMEs.
It's quite elaborate, isn't it?
I went, okay. I said, what about payment and one about visas, or what do you get I said, okay, right, okay. I said, he said, we've got 6 speaker slots. We've got 5 already. You'll be the last speaker. I said, who else have we got speaking? And he said, oh, we've got Michael Jackson. And I just went, come on, who's this? Which radio station is this? This is just a wind up. He said, I'm sorry. I said, Michael Jackson. I said, that's the best you can do because he was still alive. I said, the best you can do.
Oh, you thought he meant the singer, Michael Jackson. Okay. Because, of course, there is a public speaker that you and I both know with the same name. Ah.
So I was like,
I get it.
he said, no, he said, this is the other Michael Jackson. He's a speaker from South Africa.
He's phenomenal.
And I went, and he said, he said, when we know about these 2 other events, I said, oh, I'll find out on Monday. And he said, before you go, here's the link to the website. And this is the gotcha moment.
That's right.
And it was real. This conference was real. The auditorium, the conference center in Tehran. And I went. And
This was your first ever international?
I went international before I went national.
Wow.
The furthest I ever spoke was Carlisle Racecourse for the Chamber of Commerce.
Gosh.
I went international before I went national. I met Michael Jackson. And
who's a phenomenal
yes, brilliant, superb speaker. George Turok from Canada.
Oh, wow.
So there was like a band of brothers. There was 6 of us. 2 conferences. The first one, I was landing into the big one. Michael and the other speakers have been there for a week already. They've done all these conferences, so they know the lingo, they know the customs, and they can. We're talking about comfort zones. I couldn't even see it. I couldn't even see the horizon of just being safe. And that's not sort of Tehran, because Tehran and Iranian people are stunning, and I'll not hear about
Maybe just the actual size, scale, magnitude of the gig.
And Sefa's also the translator. He translates for the president. So as I'm speaking on stage, there's a 5-second delay to what people hear. And I'm talking about stories from South Shields.
That's right.
And marketing things.
There's all the travel so well.
In Chesley Street and Newcastle. And this is what I did for this milkshake shop in Newcastle City Centre. And I'm talking about all regional stuff because I haven't been anywhere yet. I've not done anything of that. So quickly tell you, at this conference, it was a 2-day conference, 1,000 people in the audience. It's like half of the Coliseum. The stage is in 3 sets. It is huge. It is stunning. This dry ice comes out from the stage as you're coming on. The music is blaring. There's lights. It is a spectacle, and I've seen nothing like it. And I've been to nothing like I was speaking in a room with 30 people in Jarrow, and I deliver my first keynote. You do 2 one-hour keynotes, 1 per day, different content, and the speakers all do it an hour each, so that's 6 hours. Lunch in the middle, big long day. I come off stage and I'm like, oh, thank God that's over. I think I did okay. This is a different world.
I assume recorded so you can play it back and critique.
Yes, but I never watch myself.
I'll come back to
that. I don't watch myself. Well, why do I watch myself? I know if it's gone well or not. It was okay, but I was like, okay. I come off stage, the MC walks on and he goes, da 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 da, Geoff Ramm, and everybody's like, and a big picture of me comes up on the screen. Huge. I don't know where they got it from. And then 4 yellow rectangular boxes, and written in these boxes were some words in Farsi. And he goes, da da da, Geoff Ramm, da 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 da, and everybody picks up their phone. And the guy, there was a sponsor, Iranian sponsor beside me. We were all on the front row, and he could speak perfect English. I said, what are they doing? He says, oh, we're rating how good you are.
Ooh. Nothing better than real-time feedback.
Now, the feedback I've had from the Chamber of Commerce and Business Links have been like, what do you think of the speaker? What do you think of the parking?
That's right.
Were the sandwiches okay?
That's right.
Would you like to know about more events in future? All that stuff. And I said, what do you mean? He says, oh, we're rating how good you are. I said, what are the options? He said, the first one's excellent. Second one's good. Third one's average. And the fourth one, how do you say weak? And I said, do I get to see these results? And he just laughed. He said, we all do. He said, in 10 minutes' time, your results go up on a bar chart.
Oh my God.
What people thought of you.
Wow, that's tragic.
At the end of day one, Michael Jackson was number one. He was phenomenal, brilliant. You know, he's been, all of the speakers are a good 10, 15 years on me. And I was like, oh my God, but I learned so much. I saw what another level looked like. And until you see it, you don't know it's there. And I looked at the slides and the performances and the way, I was like, wow. So Michael was number one. I was number two. I was number two of 6 speakers. They put us in a bloody league table for the whole world. It's horrible. I know why they do it, but it's horrible. That night we went for pizzas and I was going to say top deck shandy because you can't drink. That's a little 80s reference for people. I think we all have confidence, but what grew that night was belief. I'm thinking, I've just traveled halfway around the world to a country that doesn't speak English. It's been translated in my stuff. I'm telling stories about a business that I work with in Chesley Street and a company that I work with, and it's gone down. People enjoy it. My stuff could go anywhere. And that realization from that moment of like, oh. So that night, I was thinking about. So the next day we do a second keynote. And the next day, I delivered. I tweaked and changed a few things. I changed my opening, which was, and I was telling Chris, one of the speakers, he said, oh, I like that idea. He said, no, I said, no, I'm going to do it today. He went, have you practiced it? I went, no. And I remember the opening. I remember what I did. I sat on I moved the plant pots, huge stage. I moved the plant pots and I just sat myself back. And I just turned to the audience. I said, have you ever been fishing? A few people have been fishing. You ever go fishing? I seen you sit there with your rod for ages, for hours, for days, and not catch anything. Take marketing. You can put things out there and nothing comes back. And I said, there's nothing wrong with that. I says, but if you want to change your results, you need to change your bait. I just brought this imaginary rod back in. I said, I'm going to show you some ideas. Let's go attract more customers. Quickly back to you. And I remember I've never done that. I've never done that line since. It was just for that one-off event. And I just went for it. This belief. At the end of the second day, I was voted number one. Michael was number two. When they combined the results together from both days, I was voted best speaker.
Wow.
Of the very first world conference.
That's awesome.
And they gave me a Persian rug, which I still have in the house. And I walked through, we did Isfahan a few days later, which was stunning. But I got back to Heathrow, a different person. I got a different speaker. I'm thinking this could go anywhere. That was the real turning point. And I often, many years ago, I used to speak a lot for colleges and universities, and I used to love telling, they wanted the story of me. So I started from where I am now, went all the way back. And I talk about opportunity. I talk about saying yes. I talk about taking risks. I would never have picked up that phone.
Wow.
And Seppa's the type of person, he's a good friend now. Seppa's the type of person, he would never have left a voicemail. He would have gone somewhere else.
Oh, really? He'd have just called the next speaker in his ILRX.
So I did 4 consecutive years in Iran.
Wow.
All cities, and like I say, I went international before I went national. And that was really that sort of, that initial birth of, this could go somewhere else. As I'm sat with you now, if somebody told me back then, when Haley and I made that decision, that I'll have spoken in 53 individual countries, I'll have written 4 books, and working with some of the brands that I do, I would have said you were mad.
Just going back to, because there's so many things I'd love to ask, and I'll try and cover as many questions as I can within the limited time we've got left. So you mentioned that way back, one of your ex-colleagues at Tedco said to you, Geoff, if you don't set up your business now, you never will.
Yeah.
What did she mean by that? Why now? And why did she suggest that if you didn't set up your business there and then, you wouldn't do it 2, 3, 5 years out? What was she getting at?
I don't think I'll ever know. I think I'll just have a good guess. Knowing Sue as I do, she's very much that do it. You know, she's very, very forthwith, which is wonderful. When she said that, I think she you know, I've left the enterprise agency. I've gone away for Springfield. You know, so I'm moving up the ladder. If I don't do it now, if I get another job and that fee and that salary is bigger and the better car, it's harder. It's harder to let go of something.
Because one becomes content, one becomes comfortable.
Yes, and you're making your way, and you're going to get bigger, better, whatever. Is my assumption.
Yes, yeah.
And if she says if you don't do it now, I suppose I've got the age on my side. But if you don't do it now, you never will. It's because I would have moved into a new role and maybe it's been there for 4 or 5 years. I could have worked with a lovely brand, whatever, and it would have been harder to set up in years to come.
Yes.
So that. I only assume that's what she might have meant.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting conundrum, isn't it? Because a lot of people who are employed, perhaps because they want to get experience, want to build a network, perhaps need a salary, you know, they have this desire, this itch to set up a business, but often they don't scratch it and they retire from employment never having set up a business. So I guess with that in mind, given what you now know, what would your advice be to that person who is listening to this podcast thinking, you know what, I'd love to set up my own marketing agency, but I've got a mortgage, I've got 2 kids, I just don't think it's going to work, and therefore head down, socks up is what they do. What would your advice be to that person, Geoff?
Worst case scenario, it doesn't work out. Worst case scenario, it's not what you intended, you know, after a couple of years. And you can go back to doing what you did before.
You can, because when I've asked that question of people before, why don't you just give it a go? What's the worst thing that can happen? The response I always get back is, well, I don't want a blotch on my CV. I don't want people thinking that I failed.
That's interesting, isn't it? I think it's the one country where your class is a failure.
That's right. That's right.
You do this in America, you're a hero.
That's right. You're high-fived. Yeah.
So it's I suppose I was forced into that feeling of never wanting to do that again. And of course, I suppose you're saying there, you've got somebody's working, you know, the working. So do you have that Sunday night feeling?
Yeah.
Because we all have it.
That's right.
When you're employed, you say, oh, you know, I've got to go in for that meeting tomorrow. I've got to have that report done. If you've got to do something and you're not quite, just stop it.
Yeah.
Life's too bloody short. And I suppose rather than sort of take the itch, scratch the itch, take the plunge, whatever, it's like I have never, ever once in 23 years had a Sunday night feeling. I've never woke up and went, oh, I've got that event tomorrow. Oh, I can't. And the day I do, I'll just give up. I'll just wrap it in because it's not worth it. Every place I've gone to, everything I've done with Mercury and geofframm.com, I've loved every minute of it. Yeah, there's challenges, there's hardships, and there's stuff, but I've loved every single thing about it. I still have a home-based office. I don't employ anybody. I do not have a Sunday night feeling. Sometimes there's nothing in the diary for a week, and I've got a couple of calls, and then next week I'm in Rome for 4 days, and then a conference in Yorkshire, and I'm away for 5 days. I never have that feeling of not everybody loves their job, but I don't come across many people that don't love their own business. And whatever age you're at now, just why not give it a shot? There can be people who, as well, dip your toe. There's nothing wrong with dipping your toe.
That's right.
It costs you nothing to get that, well, a few pennies to get the domain name, get a bit of a website going, get a bit of a web presence, do some advising, consulting, or whatever it may be on the side, on a night time, on a weekend, and gradually grow it and build and see how you feel. I think a lot of people say, oh, we've got to sever, we've got to cut, and we've got to start this, and we've got no money, and we'd have to start from scratch. That might be the case if you're being made redundant, and that's bloody hard. Yeah. But for everybody else who's thinking about potentially, what's the worst case scenario?
I think that's a really important point. A lot of people view employment as safe, secure, certain, and they view this unemployed world as high risk, uncertain, and volatile. But the reality is, as an employee, you are at more risk than when you own your own business, because you're not going to make yourself redundant, are you, for the benefit of an outsourced marketing agency?
There's nothing more secure than having your own business right now compared to
that's a psychological shift for an employee who gets their pay slip at the end of the month and the salary drops, they think, on an open-ended basis indefinitely. But of course, the day you're made redundant is the day you realize that's not true. So what a great gift. And I think the other thing that's really important is that actually, as you say, it's not a sterile decision, because actually going from employee to employer is a journey. And actually it's best done, I think, on a gradual basis. So as you say, setting up your potential business as a hobby, doing a little bit of work for friends and family, seeing whether there's a market opportunity before making a big career decision that you might regret.
Yeah, I think, and little things like that, and I'll come back to the difference between when I started 23 years ago and now.
That's right.
Working from home now, you get bloody awards from it at a business function.
Correct.
Back then it was frowned upon.
That's right.
You haven't got your own. And the first thing I did was get my own business telephone line and a dedicated number
address,
and trying to make it look bigger than what I was. But times have changed. It has changed. There's this. But I go back to that Sunday night feeling. I've never had one. Never ever had one. I love every minute of it. Yes, there are challenges, but I'm sure people who are thinking about it now, if you do it, you'll enjoy it.
Agree. Just moving the conversation on slightly.
Yes.
Obviously, as an author, as an internationally renowned public speaker, a lot of your more recent work has been focused on the subject of celebrity service. So how do you treat each of your customers like a celebrity?
Yes.
And I guess deliver service to retain them. Could you just summarize what you've learned from working with some of the big logos that you have worked with when it comes to the things businesses should do to make sure they are delivering a world-class service to retain their customer base? Because I guess all of our viewers will have customers. So what can everyone do to better service and deliver services to their clients?
So great question. And I think for the last, 15, 16 years, I've almost all my work now is celebrity service. That's my brand. So I talk about customer service, write about customer service, but my brand is celebrity service. And for those of you who think, well, what do you mean celebrity service? Right now, for everybody listening and watching the podcast, right now, you are delivering a high level of service. If I said to you, on the scale of 1 to 10, 1 is abysmal, 10 is incredible, what number would you be? I can guarantee you right now, everybody's thought of a 7 or an 8. We're pretty good, but there's always room for improvement. Where do you get that improvement from? For the last 50 years, 5 decades, we only hear the 2 things. Go the extra mile. Exceed expectations. That's all you have to do to be a standout service, a service experience to your clients, your passengers, your members, your guests. There's nothing new in the world of customer service. But this philosophy that I created some 22 years ago now, I think it was, this philosophy is a question, and it's a question that if you ask every client, every customer, and even your colleagues as well in the internal service piece, if you were to ask this on every touch point within your business, you will completely and utterly redefine and redesign your own levels of service. And it's this: if your next customer, client were to walk through your door, email you, pick up the phone, and they were an A-list celebrity, Hollywood, Bollywood, musical, movie icon. And I'm talking here.
Where's the bar?
Where's the bar? Yeah. We're talking George Clooney, we're talking Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie, we're talking Denzel Washington, we're talking all of these, Margot Robbie, all of these, bang. If they were to come to your office tomorrow for a meeting, what does Carl wear? Carl wears his best suit.
That's right. That's right.
Does he have a special shave this morning or tonight? Does he get his hair done? Does he wear his, and your partner might go, you smell lovely, Carl. Where are you going? Oh, I'm just going into the office.
That's right.
Who are you meeting?
Just a client.
Yeah. And do the biscuits and the coffee that you normally serve, do they get upgraded?
Absolutely.
Okay.
For sure.
And the proposal that you send this person, what does it look like? How long does it take? What words do you choose to put on the email accompanying that proposal? How do you follow up? If there's a problem with payment, how do you approach it? Everything changes. What you look like, what you deliver, what you say, everything changes. From a normal service that is always good, you've been doing this for years, really good, it goes to there. And that's the gap. The gap you don't realize exists. There's a gap called celebrity service. If a celebrity were to walk into your business to become your next customer, what would be the difference? What you do is you find out all those differences that you'd make and give them to every other customer. Yeah. And no competitor in your marketplace can touch you for. You asked the question about what businesses can really do to stand out and deliver a greater celebrity service. One of the biggest things is time. I can pretty much guarantee that everybody watching and listening to this podcast right now, they'll have had a leadership meeting. When was your last leadership meeting? Oh, it's Tuesday. When was your last sales meeting? Oh, it's every Thursday. When was your last customer service meeting?
The agenda, is it?
Tumbleweed.
That's right.
So time. People want to deliver. I think we know this. It's not uncommon knowledge. People want and know that a great service experience will you will get repeat clients. People will talk about you for decades to come. But you've got to nurture it. Who inspires your team? Oh, we send them on a training course. Well, good luck with that, because you're going to learn how to go the extra mile. Who inspires your team to deliver a greater service experience? So time, and I will say investment, in getting your team to a level that we all know they can achieve. And that is one of the biggest areas. And it's interesting because of all the clients that book me to speak at their conference, they're always at the top. If you look at Emirates, you look at Warner Brothers, you look at Costa, you look at all these wonderful brands, IHG, they're never at the bottom end of service experience. They're always at the top. I always say they're always in the medals.
Yes, got it.
The reason that they're in the medals is because they invest.
Yeah, they are consciously investing in being the best.
They want to stay there.
Indeed.
And they want to improve further. And that is one of the biggest things, service, customer experience, it's always has been seen, and to this day, any other business.
Yeah.
And the businesses that stand out, the businesses that are, incredible Net Promoter scores, brilliant TripAdvisor reviews, they will invest time, they will invest the space, they will create the ideas to action, and they would recognize their staff. And that's my 5 plan, as it were, that I share with businesses.
And if any viewer wants to understand more about celebrity service and actually how they can implement, how would you recommend either they'd get in touch or they would access some of your learnings and work?
Yeah, the best thing to do is, watch. We live in a world where we're watching every video.
YouTube is a pretty handy place.
So I've got a YouTube channel, Geoff Ramm, R-A-M-M, my website, and I've got the birth of celebrity service on there, so you'll find out where it really genuinely came from. But I've also got on there key stories. It's unedited, by the way, because that's how I prefer to do business. That's the story, that's the idea, and I've got, must have over 80 videos now on YouTube. Help yourself, share it with the team. But look at how, I think my most proudest website page is not the videos, it's results. Yeah. I've got a page called Results. I don't think many speakers have ever got this. I've not seen any. But there's a results page, and it's a selection, just a handful of clients and businesses that have embraced celebrity service, that have gone through whether it be an hour's keynote or a full day's session, what they've gone on to achieve. And that's the best thing about running your own business.
Well, it's the output of the investment, isn't it? That's important, because you can sort of visualize that, you can quantify that, can't you?
Anybody can speak. Not everybody wants to be a speaker, but anybody can speak. but the words that you use and the passion and the delivery of your message, if that equates to tangible, real-life results, increased net promoter scores, award-winning, you've just picked up an award because you did X, Y, Z from one of my talks, that is just stunning. That's the thing that I love more than anything. Geoff, hi Geoff, I saw you 2 years ago. I'm like, oh my God, I get a LinkedIn message all of a sudden. And because of that bit of advice, because of that thing, we went on to do this, and when we did this, this led to this. And go,
Well,
that is pretty stunning.
let me ask Geoff, this is the last question.
Go for it.
Conscious of time. Obviously, over the years, you've had the opportunity to speak in front of, to talk with, to spend time alongside many phenomenal speakers, business owners, employees of great businesses. What's the one thing you would like to think they would all say about Geoff Ramm? What's the one impression or the one legacy or the one learning you'd like to think they would all have taken away? Because I guess this is now about your purpose. And what's it all about for you?
We enjoyed it.
On that note, Geoff, thank you so much for joining me on my Confessions of a CEO podcast. Genuinely, it's been thought-provoking, it's been insightful, and I've actually thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. So thank you for joining me.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure today to spend some time with Geoff Ramm on our Confessions of a CEO podcast. It was brilliant to hear a little bit more about how Geoff, in his early years, studied a business studies and marketing degree here in the Northeast before climbing the ranks within a marketing environment, before setting up, on the back of redundancy, his own marketing agency. It's been really interesting to hear a little bit about whether Geoff perhaps would or would not have took the plunge and set up his own business if he wasn't forced to on the back of redundancy. And of course, in turn, that does pose the question, doesn't it, whether employment in fact provides the security that employees think it does, accepting when it's your business, you're always going to have your best interests at heart, right? For sure, Geoff's view is if you've got an itch to set up a business, scratch it. Tomorrow may never come. It's been fascinating also to find out a little bit more about how Geoff's gone about developing the confidence, the desire, the ability to present and inspire in front of thousands of people at conferences for the likes of Costa, as an example. Always focused on the subject of celebrity service and how to treat each customer in your business as if they are an A-list celebrity, accepting that will probably not only mean you deliver 5-star service, but of course it's the marginal gain between good and great, and of course that's how you unlock a phenomenal customer experience, which in turn should go to bottom line profit. Geoff's a really great guy, and for sure, his really informal, no-nonsense, candid insights, I think not only have I appreciated, but I'm sure you, our viewers, will be able to benefit from and in turn perhaps introduce to your business. You have been watching Confessions of a CEO powered by RG. My name is Carl Swansbury. If you would like to download this podcast or any other podcast in our Confessions of a series, please do so from wherever you download your podcasts. Please also like and subscribe so that you will receive future podcasts as they drop. But for now, thank you for joining this podcast, and we really look forward to seeing you soon.